The secret operations of the Cold War didn't die with the Berlin Wall. They live on in modern surveillance, global power struggles, and the systems shaping everyday life. Subscribe to Cold War Black Files to uncover how yesterday's espionage still influences the world today. Snow falls heavy over Holzheim. Thick, white silence. The kind that swallows sound before it's made. January 1945. The war is supposed to be ending, but nobody told the snow, nobody told the cold, and nobody told the Germans dug into these Belgian hills that they were beaten. The town is a ruin. Not the dramatic kind, not the Hollywood kind, with buildings split open and flames licking the sky. Just the slow, grinding ruin of a place that's been fought over too many times. Windows are broken. Doors hang loose. The cobblestones are cracked and pitted from tank treads and artillery strikes. The people who lived here are long gone. Now it's just soldiers. Just the cold. Just the war. First Sergeant Leonard Funk is walking back from battalion headquarters. He's 25 years old, but looks older. Everyone looks older. The war does that. Takes boys and turns them into something else. Something harder. Something that doesn't sleep right anymore. His boots crunch through ice-crusted drifts. Each step breaks through a thin layer of frozen surface, then sinks into the powder beneath. It's exhausting work, walking through snow like this. Everything is exhausting now. Has been since Normandy, since Sicily before that, since the day he jumped out of a perfectly good airplane and trusted a silk parachute to bring him down alive. He's been gone maybe 2 hours, long enough to get orders, check the map, argue with some supply officer about ammunition that never arrives, grab a quick cup of something that pretends to be coffee, long enough for everything to go wrong. Behind him, the command post is a blur in the snow. Ahead, somewhere in the white, his men are clearing houses. 13 of them. Baker Squad, 2nd Platoon, C Company, 508th Parachute Infantry Regiment, 82nd Airborne Division. Those designations mean something. They're not just numbers and letters. They're identity. They're pride. They're the thing you hold on to when everything else is trying to kill you. Funk has been with most of these men since basic training. He's watched them transform from civilians into soldiers. Watched them learn to jump, to shoot, to move as a unit. Watched them land in Normandy on D-Day. Watched them fight through France, through Holland, through the frozen hell of the Ardennes. He knows their names, their hometowns, their girlfriends and wives and mothers waiting back in the States. He knows who's brave and who's scared and who's both at the same time, which is most of them. They're good men, tired men, men who've been doing this too long. The 82nd was supposed to be pulled back, supposed to get a rest after Holland. Instead, they got thrown into the Bulge, Hitler's last desperate gamble, the push through the Ardennes that caught everyone by surprise. Now they're here, in Belgium, fighting through snow and cold to push the Germans back to where they started. Funk thinks about his men as he walks, thinks about Jackson, the kid from Tennessee who can't stop talking about his girl back home, thinks about Martinez, the quiet one from Texas who never misses a shot, thinks about Kowalski, the big Pole from Chicago who always finds something to complain about but always does his job. Thinks about all of them, scattered through these frozen houses, doing the work that needs doing. The work is simple enough. Go house to house, clear each one. Root out any Germans hiding in cellars or attics or back rooms. Take prisoners if they surrender. Kill them if they don't. Move to the next house. Repeat until the town is secure. Simple, but not easy. Never easy. Funk rounds the corner of a stone farmhouse. The building is old, maybe 200 years, thick walls that have survived wars before this one. There's a barn attached, half collapsed from some previous fight. Broken farming equipment rusts in the snow, a cart with one wheel, a plow that will never plow again. The snow muffles everything. It's unnatural, this quiet. Funk has been in combat long enough that silence makes him nervous. Combat is noise, gunfire and explosions, and men shouting. Silence means something is wrong. Silence means someone is waiting. He's expecting to see his squad, maybe warming their hands over a fire they've scrounged from broken furniture, maybe eating cold rations, the kind that taste like cardboard but keep you alive, maybe just sitting, staring at nothing the way soldiers do when they've seen too much. When the 1,000-yard stare isn't just an expression, it's the only way to cope with what's in your head. Instead, he sees his men on their knees, in the snow, all 13 of them, hands behind their heads, facing away from him, and surrounding them, rifles pointed down at their heads, are German soldiers. Funk stops. His breath hangs in the air, a small cloud that dissipates slowly. For a split second, the world is perfectly still. He can see everything with terrible clarity. His men kneeling. The Germans standing in a loose circle around them. The weapons stacked in a pile 20 feet away. The tracks in the snow showing where the Germans came from, how they moved, how they'd caught his squad by surprise. He counts quickly. 90 Germans, maybe more. It's hard to be sure with the snow and the way they're spread out, but at least 90. Wehrmacht uniforms, not SS. Combat veterans by the look of them. Hard faces, steady hands, men who know their business. This is bad. This is very bad. Funk's mind races through possibilities. He could run, turn around and head back to battalion, get reinforcements, come back in force. But by the time he returns, his men will be on their way to a POW camp or dead in the snow. He could try to negotiate, but he doesn't speak German, and he's one man against 90. He has nothing to negotiate with. Then one of the Germans turns. Young guy, maybe 19, with a rifle slung over his shoulder. He sees Funk. His eyes go wide. He shouts something in German, urgent and loud. The word cuts through the snow-muffled air like a knife. Other Germans turn. Rifles swing toward Funk. 10, then 20, then more. He's suddenly looking down the barrels of enough weapons to cut him in half. His Thompson submachine gun is slung over his shoulder. His right hand is near it, but not on it. Moving now would be suicide. The Germans are shouting at each other. Funk catches fragments of words he doesn't understand. Orders being given, questions being asked. His men have turned their heads, as much as they can, with their hands behind their heads and German rifles aimed at their skulls. He can see their faces now. Jackson looks terrified. Martinez is stone-faced, calculating. Kowalski's jaw is clenched so tight it looks like it might break. A German officer steps forward. Mid-30s maybe, clean uniform, despite the snow and the fighting and the general chaos of war. Confident stride, the walk of a man who knows he's won. He's holding an MP-40, the German submachine gun. Shorter than Funk's Thompson, lighter, simpler design, equally deadly at close range. The officer walks right up to Funk, doesn't stop until they're face to face. Then he jams the barrel of the MP-40 into Funk's stomach, hard. Hard enough that Funk feels it through his winter gear, through his uniform, feels the cold metal, even through all those layers. The officer starts talking. German comes out fast, clipped, authoritative, officer's German. Upper-class German. The kind of German that expects to be obeyed. Funk doesn't speak the language. He took French in high school, which has been exactly zero help in this war. He catches maybe one word in 10, and those don't help. Waffen, weapons, capitulation, surrender, schnell, quick. The officer is clearly explaining the situation, probably telling Funk that his men are captured, that resistance is futile, that he should put down his weapon and surrender. The tone is triumphant. Why wouldn't it be? The officer has just captured an American patrol. He's got 13 prisoners already, and now their sergeant has walked right into his trap. It's a good day for him, a very bad day for Funk. The officer makes a gesture with his free hand, keeping the MP40 pressed into Funk's gut. He points at the Thompson, then at the ground. The meaning transcends language. Put it down. Surrender. It's over. You've lost. Funk looks at the officer, really looks at him, sees the confidence there, the certainty. This German has won, and he knows it. The math is simple. 90-1. 13 hostages, with guns to their heads. One American sergeant with a submachine gun slung over his shoulder and no good options. Funk looks past the officer at his men. They're watching him, all of them. Jackson with his fear. Martinez with his calculation. Kowalski with his anger. And others. Thompson, the medic who's saved half their lives at one point or another. Rousseau, the scrounger who can find food and cigarettes anywhere. Williams, the kid who just turned 19 last week. They're waiting to see what he does. They're paratroopers. They've been trained to fight, to resist, to never give up. But they're also practical. They can see the situation as clearly as Funk can. Sometimes you fight. Sometimes you survive to fight another day. The question is which this moment is. The German officer keeps talking, more insistent now. His voice rises slightly. The MP40 pushes harder into Funk's stomach. Other Germans are moving closer, forming a tighter circle. Someone takes a step toward Funk's weapon. Another German raises his rifle, aiming directly at Funk's head from 10 feet away. The moment stretches. Snow continues to fall. Somewhere in the distance, there's the rumble of artillery. Someone else's war. Someone else's fight. Here in Holzheim, it's just silence and cold and the pressure of a gun barrel against Funk's stomach. And Funk laughs. Not a nervous laugh. Not a defeated laugh. Not the kind of laugh that comes from shock or fear or the edge of a breakdown. A genuine, from-the-belly laugh. The kind of laugh you make when someone tells you a good joke. The kind of laugh that comes from real amusement. The German officer stops mid-sentence. His mouth is still open. He doesn't understand. He looks at Funk like he's insane. Maybe he is. Maybe the war has finally broken this American sergeant. Maybe the cold has gotten to him. Maybe he's cracked under the pressure. Other Germans exchange glances. They're confused. This isn't how captured soldiers act. Captured soldiers are afraid or defiant or resigned. They don't laugh. They don't look amused. What is this American doing? Funk keeps laughing. His shoulders shake with it. His breath comes out in clouds. The German officer pulls the MP40 back slightly, just an inch or two, trying to figure out what's happening. He says something to Funk, a question by the tone of it. Maybe asking if he's all right. Maybe asking what's so funny. Funk's hands come up, not reaching for his weapon, not in surrender, just coming up, gesturing broadly, animatedly, like he's trying to explain something, like he's in on the joke, and he wants to share it. His movements are exaggerated, friendly even. He's still laughing, still shaking his head like he can't believe what he's hearing. The German officer lowers the MP40 another inch. He's completely confused now. He looks at his men at the other Germans standing around. Some of them shrug. Some of them look as bewildered as he is. None of them are ready for what happens next. Funk's right hand flashes to his Thompson. The movement is pure muscle memory. He's done it 10,000 times. In training, in combat, in the half-second between safety and death. The sling is already loose. He'd adjusted it that way months ago, after the first time he'd needed to bring the weapon up fast and found himself tangled. One smooth motion. The Thompson comes off his shoulder and into his hands. His left hand finds the forward grip. His right hand wraps around the pistol grip, finger sliding into the trigger guard. The weapon is up and aimed and firing before the German officer can react. The Thompson roars. It's a distinctive sound, deeper than a rifle, more sustained than a pistol, 30 rounds in the magazine, firing at 600 rounds per minute. Funk doesn't fire the whole magazine. He doesn't need to. Short bursts, 2, 3, 4 rounds, controlled, precise, deadly. The German officer goes down. He falls backward into the snow, the MP-40 dropping from his hands. He's dead before he hits the ground. Funk is already moving, already swinging the Thompson in a tight arc, already firing into the knot of Germans nearest to him. Close range, 10 feet, 15 at most. The Thompson was designed for this. Trench warfare, close quarters combat. The kind of fighting where you need to put a lot of bullets into a small space very quickly. It does exactly what it was designed to do. Germans fall. Some are hit. Some dive for cover. Some freeze, shocked, unable to process what's happening. They'd had the Americans captured. They'd won. Their officer was in control. Then this American sergeant laughed at them, and everything went to hell. Funk doesn't stop moving. He's advancing as he fires, stepping over the German officer's body, moving toward his men. His paratroopers don't need orders. They've been waiting for this. For some sign, some signal, some moment when the odds shift, even a fraction. The Germans made mistakes. Small mistakes, but critical ones. They put the Americans on their knees, but they didn't tie their hands. They stacked the American weapons, but they left them accessible, didn't take them back to wherever the German command post was. They were confident, maybe overconfident. Maybe they thought 13 defeated Americans weren't a threat. Maybe they were thinking about the hot food and warm beds that prisoners usually mean, the end of combat for a little while, the chance to rest. Now they're dying for those mistakes. Funk's men explode into motion. Jackson, the scared kid from Tennessee, isn't scared anymore. He's diving for the weapon pile, grabbing his M1 carbine, rolling and coming up shooting. Martinez is right behind him, moving with that fluid precision that comes from being a natural athlete. Kowalski is roaring, actually roaring, as he barrels into the German nearest to him, taking the man down with sheer mass. The Germans are caught in chaos. Their officer is dead. Their position has collapsed. Americans, who were supposed to be prisoners, are suddenly armed and fighting. Some Germans try to return fire. Some throw down their weapons and raise their hands. Some just run, bolting through the snow, trying to get away from the killing zone. Funk burns through his magazine, 30 rounds gone in seconds. He can feel the Thompson getting hot, even in the freezing air. Smoke rises from the barrel. His ears are ringing from the gunfire. Around him, his men are spreading out, taking cover, pouring fire into the Germans. He drops the empty magazine. It falls into the snow, disappearing into the white. His hand goes to his belt, grabs a fresh magazine, slaps it home. The motion is automatic. No thought required. Load, chamber, fire. Load, chamber, fire. The rhythm of staying alive. But he doesn't fire. Doesn't need to. The fight is already over. It lasted maybe 30 seconds, maybe less. Hard to tell. Time does strange things in combat. Sometimes it stretches out, every moment an eternity. Sometimes it compresses, and hours pass in what feels like minutes. The Germans who can run are running. They're disappearing into the snow, into the ruins, heading back toward their own lines. The ones who can't run are on the ground or on their knees. Some are wounded. Some are dead. Some have their hands raised, shouting the one English word every German soldier learns. Kamerad, comrade, friend. Don't shoot. Funk's men move through them quickly. This is routine now. Check the bodies, make sure they're actually dead and not faking. Kick weapons away from the wounded. Pat down prisoners for hidden weapons, for grenades, for suicide pills. Some German officers carry cyanide capsules. Better to die than be captured, than face interrogation, than betray their oaths. The snow is no longer white. It's red in places, pink in others, where blood has mixed with snow and been kicked around by boots. Brass shell casings are everywhere, glinting dully in the grey light. The smell of cordite hangs heavy, mixing with the copper smell of blood and the sick-sweet smell of the dead. Funk stands in the middle of it, Thompson raised, breathing hard. His heart is pounding. Adrenaline is flooding his system, making everything sharp and clear and slightly unreal. His hands are steady. They're always steady. He's noticed that about himself. No matter how scared he is, no matter how close it gets, his hands never shake. His men are calling out. Clear. Got 3 prisoners here. Sergeant, we need a medic. I'm okay. I'm okay. The voices overlap. Urgent, but controlled. These are professionals. They've done this before. Jackson comes up beside him. The kid is grinning. Adrenaline and relief making him almost giddy. His eyes are too bright. He's talking fast, words tumbling over each other. Something about that being the craziest thing he's ever seen. Something about how he thought they were dead. Something about Funk being the bravest son of a bitch in the whole army. Funk just nods. It's not courage. Not really. Or maybe it is, but not the kind people think about. It's not charging machine guns. It's not holding a position against impossible odds. It's simpler than that. It's seeing what needs to be done and doing it. It's math. It's timing. It's knowing that sometimes the only way out is through. Thompson, the medic, is working on one of the wounded Germans. Young kid, maybe 18. He's hit in the shoulder, bleeding but not dying. Thompson is applying pressure, wrapping gauze, doing his job. The German is crying, talking in German, probably calling for his mother. They all call for their mothers at the end. German, American, doesn't matter. Everyone wants their mother when they're hurt and scared. Martinez is organizing the prisoners. He's got them sitting in a line, hands on their heads. There are maybe 30 of them. The rest are dead or ran away. 30 prisoners from 90 Germans. Not bad odds. Not bad at all. Kowalski is going through the dead German officers' pockets, looking for intelligence, papers, maps, orders, anything that might tell them what the Germans were doing here, where they came from, what they were planning. The officer has a leather wallet. Kowalski pulls it out, flips it open. There are photographs inside. A woman, 2 children. Kowalski stares at them for a moment, then puts the wallet back. Some things you don't take. Funk does a quick head count. 13 Americans, all present. Williams has a graze on his arm, barely bleeding. Jackson twisted his ankle diving for his weapon. That's it. No serious casualties. Against 90 Germans, and they walked away with scratches. He allows himself a moment of relief. Just a moment. Then he's back to work. They need to move. Need to get these prisoners to the rear. Need to report what happened. Need to keep pushing forward because the war doesn't stop just because you won one fight. He organizes his men. 2 on point, 2 on rear guard, the rest escorting prisoners. They'll march them back to battalion. Let someone else figure out what to do with them. Let intelligence interrogate them. Let the MPs process them. Let them become someone else's problem. The prisoners are docile now, shocked. They'd had the Americans dead to rights, had them captured, had won. Then one sergeant laughed, and the world turned upside down. Some of them keep glancing at Funk, trying to understand what happened. He doesn't enlighten them, doesn't speak to them. They're prisoners now. That's all that matters. The column forms up. 13 Americans, 30 German prisoners, moving through the snow toward the American lines. Funk walks near the front, Thompson over his shoulder again, cigarette between his lips. His hands are steady. They're always steady. The march back takes an hour, slow going through the snow with prisoners who are cold and tired and defeated. They pass through other American positions. Soldiers stop and stare. 13 men with 30 prisoners. Someone whistles. Someone else calls out asking if they've been shopping. Kowalski yells back something obscene, and everyone laughs. At battalion headquarters, there's confusion at first. Who are these prisoners? Where did they come from? What happened? Funk gives his report. Brief, factual. He doesn't embellish, doesn't need to. The numbers speak for themselves. The intelligence officer gets very interested very quickly. 90 Germans in Holzheim. Where did they come from? What unit? What were they doing? Funk doesn't have all the answers. He was too busy shooting them to ask questions. But the prisoners will talk. Prisoners always talk. The prisoners are led away. The intelligence officer wants to debrief Funk, wants details, wants everything. Funk promises to come back later. Right now, he needs to take care of his men. They've been through enough. He finds his squad in a building that's relatively intact. They've got a fire going, scrounged wood burning in what used to be a fireplace. They're eating rations, drinking coffee that someone found somewhere. Real coffee, not the ersatz stuff. One of the benefits of capturing Germans is you get their supplies. The men are quiet now. The adrenaline has worn off. They're coming down from the high, sinking into the exhaustion that always follows combat. Jackson is staring at the fire. Martinez is cleaning his carbine with meticulous care. Kowalski is asleep in a corner, snoring softly. Williams, the kid who just turned 19, comes up to Funk. He's got bandage on his arm where the bullet grazed him. His hands are shaking slightly. He asks Funk if he was scared. Back there, when he walked in and saw them captured, if he was scared. Funk considers lying, considers saying no, that he's never scared, that fear is for other people. But Williams deserves the truth. They all do. He tells Williams, yes, he was terrified. Seeing his men on their knees, guns pointed at their heads, knowing that any second someone might pull a trigger. That's fear, real fear, the kind that makes your mouth dry and your heart pound and your mind race through all the ways this could go wrong. But being scared doesn't mean you don't act. Being scared just means you're paying attention, means you understand the stakes. The bravest people Funk knows are all scared. They just don't let it stop them. Williams nods slowly, takes this in. He's learning. They're all learning. Learning how to be soldiers, how to fight, how to survive. Learning that courage isn't the absence of fear. It's acting despite the fear. The fire crackles. Outside, the snow continues to fall. The war continues to rage. In the distance, there's the sound of artillery, steady and rhythmic like a heartbeat. Someone else's fight, someone else's war. For now, for this moment, Funk and his men can rest. But rest doesn't come easy. Funk lies down on a pile of old blankets, tries to sleep, but his mind won't stop. He keeps seeing the German officer's face, keeps seeing the moment when he pressed the MP40 into Funk's stomach, keeps seeing his men on their knees. He thinks about what could have gone wrong if he'd been slower, if the German officer had been faster, if any of the other 90 Germans had gotten a shot off before Funk cut them down, if the math had been different, if the timing had been off, but it wasn't. He was fast enough. The German was slow enough. The moment worked. That's all that matters. In war, you don't get points for style. You don't get credit for doing things the right way. You just get to stay alive. And keeping your men alive is the job. Sleep comes eventually. Fitful, interrupted by dreams that are really memories. Normandy, Holland, the Ardennes, all the fights blurring together into one long, continuous combat that started years ago and shows no sign of ending. He wakes before dawn. The fire has burned down to coals. His men are scattered around the room, sleeping in various positions of discomfort. These are soldiers. They can sleep anywhere. On the ground, in the cold, sitting up, standing if they have to. You learn to grab rest whenever you can, because you never know when the next chance will come. Funk checks his Thompson. It's a ritual now. Break it down, clean it, oil it, reassemble it. The weapon saved his life yesterday. It will probably save his life again today, or tomorrow, or next week. If he's lucky, if the math works out, if the timing is right. He thinks about going home, about what happens after the war, if there is an after, if he makes it that far. Pennsylvania seems like another world now, another lifetime. The person he was before the war feels like a stranger. He wonders if he'll be able to go back, if you can ever really go back after you've seen what he's seen, done what he's done. But that's thinking for another day. Right now, there's only the war, only the mission, only the men, depending on him, to get them through this alive. The battalion runner arrives just after dawn. New orders. They're moving out, pushing forward to the next town. The next objective. The war continues. It always continues, until it doesn't. Funk wakes his men. They grumble, complain, stretch out stiff muscles. Kowalski wants to know if they can't just stay here, maybe sit out the rest of the war in this nice building with a fireplace. Funk tells him to shut up and get his gear. They move out as the sun rises, or tries to. The sky is gray, heavy with more snow. The cold bites through every layer. Funk's breath hangs in the air. Behind them, Holzheim grows quiet. The war has moved on. The town is just another battlefield now, just another place where men fought and bled and died for reasons that will probably never make sense. Funk thinks about the German officer as they march, wonders about him, who he was, where he came from, if he had a family, people waiting for him. The photos Kowalski saw in his wallet, a wife, 2 children, now a widow and orphans. War is like that, personal and impersonal at the same time. Funk killed that officer without knowing his name, without knowing anything about him except that he was an enemy. And the officer would have killed Funk just as quickly, just as impersonally. That's the job. That's the war. They walk through the snow. The column stretches out. 13 men moving toward whatever comes next. Funk walks at the front, Thompson over his shoulder, eyes scanning the terrain. always watching, always ready, because you never know when the next fight will come, when the next impossible situation will present itself, when the next decision will need to be made in a split second with no good options. But Funk is ready, has been ready since he jumped into Normandy. Since he learned that war isn't glorious or heroic or any of the things they tell you. It's just hard, and you do it because your men depend on you, because someone has to, because running away isn't an option. January 1945. The snow falls. The war continues. Leonard Funk and his 13 paratroopers march toward the next fight. Behind them, frozen in memory and slowly being covered by snow, is the moment when 90 Germans learned that numbers don't always matter. That one man with a Thompson and the will to use it can change everything. That surrender is a choice, and sometimes the right choice is to laugh in the face of impossible odds and see what happens. The story will spread through the battalion, through the division, through the whole 82nd Airborne. The story of the sergeant who walked into 90 Germans and came out with 30 prisoners. The story will grow, become legend, become the kind of thing paratroopers tell each other to prove that impossible just means you haven't tried hard enough yet. But for Funk, it's just another day, just another mission, just another moment when everything could have gone wrong and didn't. The war goes on. His men are alive. That's victory enough. That's all the glory he needs. The rest is just noise. They disappear into the snow, into the next town, into the continuing war. Behind them, footprints slowly fill with fresh snow, erasing evidence, erasing memory. In a few hours, it will look like nothing happened in Holzheim at all. Just another frozen town, in another frozen winter. But 13 men know. 13 American paratroopers know what happened. Know what Leonard Funk did. Know that when the worst possible moment came, their sergeant laughed at it and turned defeat into victory in the time it takes to reload a Thompson submachine gun. And somewhere, someday, long after the war ends, those 13 men will tell their children and grandchildren about the day in Holzheim, about the snow and the cold and the moment when everything hung in the balance, about the sergeant who laughed at 90 Germans and lived to tell about it. Subscribe to Cold War Black Files to uncover the hidden forces still shaping our world.